Tactically walk me through. You have an idea and you're going to go talk to the users. What do you say? How do you approach them? How do you even find them? What do you do?
Sure. Yeah, I think it depends a lot on the market, right? So if we're talking like B2B enterprise, it's a very different approach to get to those buyers and talk to them, even just as a customer interview process, than it is, let's say, a consumer product aimed at, I don't know, 45-year-old males who are still struggling to stay physically relevant in a sport they love to play. Hi, that's me.
Sure.
And so I think that it depends a lot, right? So how do we want to tackle it? Do we want to pick a particular segment and use that as an example? Do we want to try to cover all of them?
Let's break it down. Let's do two chunks, B2B, B2C. Contrast the two.
And let's not go too far up the food chain. Let's say we're trying to sell to Fortune 100s. Let's say anything mid-sized revenue or higher works, right? You got to decide on who your decision maker is first. And not necessarily your decision maker, but who is the person who's most likely to suffer from the problem as you see it, who's also willing to do something about it. Because those things don't always align, right? You might find somebody who suffers from the problem, but there's very little incentive for them to want to solve it. So I try to dig in a lot and think about the problem as much as I can. Who feels this? How do they feel it? How does it impact their performance? Because at the end of the day, your buyer, even if this is something that I'm going to buy on behalf of a company, I'm still thinking about what is this going to do for me? Right? As the buyer, as the person who's going to make this decision, what does this do for me? And sometimes there is this separation too between where the pain is felt and where the decision is made. So then we have to close that gap as well. But let's pick something relatively simple. Let's take something where like it's a departmental type issue, right? Where maybe it's a sales team that wants to enhance their time efficiency. And we're going to do that through some type of automation. So who's going to make this decision? Well, we don't know for sure, but we can make a couple of guesses. And I'm going to guess it's probably a sales manager. But I might also want to talk to somebody on the sales team to find out, how they're spending their time. Is there an inefficiency here? And so I'm just going to pick up the phone, by which I mean I'm actually going to pick up LinkedIn probably. I'm going to go out to forums. So before I contact people in a lot of cases, so I'm free flow thinking through the process here. Again, it depends on how hard these people are to reach. Salespeople, not typically hard to reach as long as you're willing to go a little ethically gray, because salespeople love to pick up the phone because they assume they're going to sell you something. So oftentimes, best way to get into a company is to talk to their salespeople because they're usually willing to talk. So regardless of where you're actually aiming, there have been times where I started with the sales team simply because I knew they would take the call, let them sell me as much as they needed to, and then turn around and try to sell them back. And so you start somewhere there. But before I even get to that point, right? So if we go 20 years ago when I was doing this for the first time, very different process. Now there is so much publicly available information through discussion forums, through blog articles. People are telling you how they're suffering from the problems, how they want to solve them, if they want to solve them, what they're willing to pay to solve them, right? They're discussing the current solutions. So if you go into a forum on, sales team management or sales team efficiency, you're going to find the types of problems that people are facing. I can't get my team to do this, or my team is spending so much time on admin stuff, I don't know what to do, or they are wasting a ton of time on unqualified sales calls, right? So this starts to tell you, okay, these are the types of problems that they're suffering from. The other beauty is it gives you the language that they use to describe their problems. I see founders do this all the time where they start to jargon people to death with their solution as they describe it. And it's not the language that their market uses. So you're going to learn a ton just by going out and observing what's already out there, what's already available, and start participating in that stuff. Is any of this super fast? No, it's not, right? So if you're trying to move really fast, probably going to screw up customer discovery and customer interviews and product market fit, and then you're going to get further faster and then realize you have to reverse course and back up. So if any of this sounds like too much work, it's because it is, but there's a huge ROI on getting this right. So let's assume that we can find out some good information that at least a problem does exist, right? We are starting to see some indication that there are people suffering from this problem around, efficiency, time efficiency within a sales team. This is something that you feel like you want to solve. Again, like there's got to be something there that you actually care about. Right? If it turns out it's just about writing better sales copy and you're not a copywriter, probably not a gig you want to get into. So let's assume that you're somebody who just loves to help people figure out how to be more efficient with their time, loves automations, and loves solving people-related puzzles. This is going to be great for you. So now we've got the basis for outreach. And we can just simply begin to reach out to people. And I think, one of the great things about being a startup founder is that people will often pick up the phone and talk to me simply because I say that. Like, hey, I'm a startup founder. I'm working on this idea. And I think, right, and this is where we just lead with a little bit of flattery. I need somebody with your experience to answer like 5 to 7 minutes worth of questions that I have about your particular market. I literally have nothing to sell. Right. And I've said that. Sometimes that works really well. Sometimes when you tell people you have nothing to sell, they assume you have something to sell. And so like with all things, and being a marketer, this is just ingrained into me. Test the hell out of everything, right? Every single message that you send, right? Before you send 100 of them, you should have sent 5 or 10 different versions to see which one works best. It's one of the classic mistakes I see at this phase is that people just start to like spam out messaging and get really poor results and take a false negative. Like, yeah, nobody cares about this. Nobody wants to talk to me. Well, nobody wants to talk to you based on the way you're approaching them. So let's slow it down. Let's be a little bit more careful. Let's be a little bit more deliberate. And let's be really clear on the asks.